Joining me now, friend of the show, NWSL reporter Steph Young, also with The Athletic. Thanks for joining us once again, Steph. How you doing?
Thanks for having me on. Doing well, preparing for the World Cup. The anxiety is building.
Yes, it is. The excitement, the anxiety, everything that comes with it. And of course, we're going to talk all things Canadian here because there are some questions that Canadians even have when it comes to their captain, their leader, their veteran, and that is Christine Sinclair. I mean, her first World Cup was 2003, Steph. I mean, this is somebody who's been there, done that. So inevitably, we always start to ask, what kind of role are they going to play the older they get? Having seen her play in NWSL with the Portland Thorns, how have you seen her game evolve?
Well, it's something that I think started under John Herdman, actually, where they kind of both got together and realized, all right, I'm not always going to be as fast as I am. Let's figure this out. Dropping her into a deeper role, taking advantage of someone who has great field vision, who understands how the play develops. We've seen that continuing with Portland. She's kind of playing in the midfield, more on the left side now with them, a little more withdrawn, maybe a late arriver trying to tug the strings for her teammates.
All right, well, we're going to see what Bev Priestman will do with Christine Sinclair as far as starter or coming off the bench. I mean, based again on what you've seen in NWSL play, would Sinclair still, does it depend on the competition then? I mean, whether she's a starter or an impact player?
I think it'll definitely depend on the tournament and the games. Canada doesn't have the easiest group, and there's all kinds of factors, right? You want to start strong. You want to set the tone. At the same time, it's a marathon. Sink is 40 years old. Time marches on. And this is a roster that overall has been dealing with a lot of injury issues, as you're aware. So roster management is going to be crucial. I really think there's going to be a lot of factors. I do not envy Bev Priestman having to make judgment calls, juggling all those factors.
Well, let's talk about a factor that can be a big one and possibly score some goals, and that, of course, is Jordyn Huitema. How do you think she's developed, and how do you think that can translate to World Cup play?
I think we're seeing some good finishing from her, particularly inside the box. That's absolutely something Canada has needed throughout their history, just someone to be really ruthless in front of goal. And if Sink is going to be farther from the goal, you want additional firepower right in front of the goal in that box. And that's something that we've seen her do for OL Reign. You're right. I think she has something like 6 goals across all competitions so far this season. She can play shifted more right. She can come centrally. So she's a pretty versatile player who can play well off of Sink. And in Seattle for OL Reign has benefited off of, playing in front of their midfield with players like Jess Fishlock.
Let's switch gears just a little bit, though, and talk about the Americans in this upcoming World Cup. The Americans are always a factor in every tournament they're in. But we've also seen other nations closing that gap. Where would you say the Americans rank when it comes to the expectation of winning this all? Are they the favorites? Where would you put the Americans in this World Cup?
I'll never say they're the favorites because that's a jinx waiting to happen. And you mentioned the gap. I think the gap is gone. It's gone between themselves and some of the other top contenders, your Englands, maybe your Germanys, possibly France. They had their own coaching change that maybe I'm optimistic will be good for the players. Not if they have to face the United States, but in general for the health of the game and their team. I think the gap is gone. And I think it's up to the United States now to keep innovating, staying ahead by those incremental little percentages. Are they a favorite? I can't deny it. So yeah, I'll put them up there while also I think there's some wood surfaces around here that I can knock on.
Well, if we're going to believe in that and the jinxes, then I'm going to say this. Canada's going to do poorly. How about that? Is that how it works?
Yeah, absolutely awful.
Just worst ever. Steph, you're awesome, and we always love you taking the time here on the show.
Thanks for having me on.